Captain Deho stood in front of the large blue screen that showed data from across the galaxy. His green-scaled hands moved quickly over the control panel as he checked the same information for the 100th time today. Something was very wrong with the humans, and it made his stomach feel sick with worry. The command room was quiet except for the soft humming of computers. Other alien officers worked at their stations, but they all felt the same tension in the air. Everyone knew that when humans went silent, bad things usually happened next. "Sir?" called out his young assistant Valterra as she walked over with a datapad in her forearms. Her purple skin looked darker than usual, which meant she was scared. "I have checked all the communication channels again. The Earth sector has been completely quiet for 187 days now. No messages to other planets, no trade talks, no requests for help. Nothing at all." Deho's yellow eyes got smaller as he thought about this news. In all his years working as a spy for the Altarian government, he had never seen humans stay quiet for so long. They were usually very loud and always wanted to talk to everyone about everything. They sent messages about their movies, their food, their strange music, and their politics every single day. But now there was only silence. "Show me the last messages we got from them," he said in a low voice. Valterra pressed some buttons, and the big screen changed to show old human communications. Most of the messages were broken and hard to understand, but some words appeared over and over again. Project Unity was mentioned in almost every message. There were also numbers showing huge amounts of metal, fuel, and other materials being moved around Earth. What made Deho most worried were the secret military messages that their best computer experts could not read. The humans had somehow made their codes much stronger in just a few months. Before this, Altarian computers could easily break human codes and read their secrets. Now their messages were completely locked. "Look at this pattern," Valterra said, pointing to a chart on her datapad. "The humans started sending fewer and fewer messages exactly 200 days ago. At the same time, they began moving huge amounts of materials from their mines and factories. Then all their military forces went dark. We cannot find any of their warships or bases anymore." Deho walked to the big window that showed the stars outside their space station. He remembered his training about human behavior from many years ago. The teacher had been an old Altarian scientist who had studied humans for most of his life. "Humans are pack hunters," the teacher had said. "They work together when they face danger. But they have one trait that makes them very different from other smart species in the galaxy. When most creatures feel scared, they make noise to call for help or to scare away enemies. Humans do the opposite. When they are really scared and getting ready to fight, they become very quiet. They stop talking and start planning. This quiet time is when they are most dangerous." Now Deho understood why he felt so worried. The humans had been talking to aliens for 30 years. They always wanted to make friends, learn new things, and share their culture. But 6 months ago, they had suddenly stopped all of this. It was like they had disappeared completely. "Pull up the very last message we got from Earth," he told Valterra. The screen showed a short text message that had been sent by someone in the human government. Most of it was in code, but parts of it were in normal language. Deho read it out loud slowly. "Phase 1 complete. Beginning orbital construction. All departments report ready for Phase 2. Resource allocation at maximum efficiency. May our children forgive us for what we must become." The room became very quiet. Even the computer sounds seemed softer. Every alien in the command center had stopped working to listen to those words. "What do you think they mean by what we must become?" asked Valterra in a whisper. Deho felt cold fear move through his body. In his 40 years of watching different species across the galaxy, he had learned important lessons about war and peace. Most species made lots of noise before they attacked. They threatened their enemies, showed off their weapons, and tried to scare others into giving up without a fight. But humans were different. When humans really decided to fight, they first became completely silent. They would disappear from view and work in secret. Then, when they were ready, they would appear with weapons and plans that no one expected. This had happened many times in human history, and it always surprised their enemies. "Send a message to the Galactic Council immediately," Deho ordered. "Tell them we have a code-red situation with the humans. They need to meet right away to discuss this threat." As Valterra hurried away to send the urgent message, Dae-ho looked back at the star map showing Earth's location. Somewhere in that quiet solar system, millions of humans were working on something big, something that made them stop talking to the rest of the galaxy, something that would change everything. He just hoped the galaxy would be ready for whatever the humans had planned. Lieutenant Jinwoo sat in his small spy ship as it moved quietly through space toward the human solar system. He felt very confident about his mission because his ship had the best hiding technology in the galaxy. The ship could become completely invisible to any radar or scanner that other species used. For over 200 years, no primitive species had ever been able to see Altarian stealth ships when they were in shadow mode. Jinwoo had done this kind of secret mission many times before. He would fly close to a planet, take pictures and recordings, then fly back home with information for his commanders. It was usually very easy and boring work. Most species were so far behind Altarian technology that they never knew he was there. But as his ship passed the orbit of Pluto, the farthest planet from Earth's sun, Jinwoo's confidence suddenly disappeared like smoke in the wind. His mouth fell open and his green eyes became very wide as he stared at his viewing screen. What he saw was impossible. Where Earth's moon used to hang alone in space, there was now a huge ring of metal structures that surrounded the entire planet. These were not small stations like most species built. These were massive industrial platforms that looked like floating cities made of steel and glass. Jinwoo watched in shock as streams of broken asteroids moved through space, like rivers of rock and metal. Giant machines grabbed these asteroid pieces and pulled them into enormous processing stations. Inside these stations, the raw materials were melted down and shaped into shiny hull plates, engine parts, and other pieces of technology. The construction was so huge that Jinwoo could see it clearly even though he was still very far from Earth. "This cannot be real," he whispered to himself. 6 months ago, humans could barely build small space stations. How did they create all of this so fast? He was still trying to understand what he was seeing when a calm voice suddenly filled his cockpit. The voice spoke in perfect Altarian language, which made Jinwoo's blood turn cold with fear. "Unknown vessel, this is Earth Defense Control. You are approaching restricted space. Please adjust your course to the coordinates we are now sending to your navigation system and prepare for escort to the edge of our territory." Jinwoo's hands began to shake as he realized what had happened. Somehow the humans had detected his invisible ship. This was supposed to be impossible. His ship used technology that was thousands of years more advanced than anything humans should have been able to build. Before he could even think about what to do next, 3 sleek human ships appeared around him like ghosts, becoming solid. These ships were nothing like the clumsy rockets that humans had used before. They moved through space with the smooth, deadly grace of hunting animals. Their hulls were dark and smooth, and they had a design that looked both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jinwoo tried to scan the human ships with his sensors, but his equipment could not understand what they were made of or how they worked. The readings made no sense. According to his instruments, these ships should not be able to fly at all, yet here they were, moving faster and more smoothly than his own advanced craft. "Please follow the course we have marked for you," the human voice said again. The tone was polite but firm. "We will guide you safely out of our system. Do not deviate from the flight path or attempt to scan our facilities." As the human ships guided him away from Earth, Jinwoo tried to get more pictures and information with his spy equipment. What he saw made his fear grow even stronger. In the distance, he could see massive shipyards where humans were building, vessels that were unlike anything in the galactic databases. These ships were enormous, bigger than the largest Altarian battleships, but they seemed to be designed for purposes that Jinwoo could not understand. Some of the ships looked like they were meant for carrying huge numbers of people and supplies across long distances. Others appeared to be mobile factories that could build things while traveling through space. There were also ships that seemed to be designed for changing the environment of entire planets. The strangest thing was how organized everything looked. Thousands of human workers and robots moved around the construction sites with perfect coordination. There was no wasted motion, no confusion, no arguing. It was like watching a single giant organism that had millions of parts all working together toward the same goal. As Jinwoo's ship reached the edge of the solar system, One of the human escorts spoke to him again. "Thank you for your cooperation, Lieutenant Jinwoo of the Altarian Intelligence Division. Please inform your superiors that humanity appreciates the Galactic Council's interest in our development. We look forward to formal diplomatic contact when we are ready." Jinwoo felt his heart stop for a moment. The humans knew who he was. They knew which government he worked for. They had been watching the Watchers. During his long flight back to Altarian space, Jinwoo tried to make sense of what he had seen. When he delivered his report to the Council, he would have to tell them that humanity had not just advanced their technology. They had completely transformed into something that the galaxy had never seen before, something that could detect invisible ships, speak perfect alien languages, and build impossible structures in impossible amounts of time. Most frightening of all, they had done it all in complete silence. High Chancellor Yoon-sik walked quickly through the long hallways of the Galactic Council building. His blue robes flowed behind him as he moved with more speed than anyone had seen from him in many years. Today was different from any other day in the history of the galaxy. Today, every species that belonged to the Council would learn about a threat that could change everything they knew about the universe. The great meeting chamber was already full of noise and worry when Yoon-sik entered. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their special seats, all talking at once in their own languages. Some had multiple arms waving in the air, others made clicking sounds with their teeth, and a few glowed with different colors to show their emotions. The room sounded like a zoo where all the animals were scared at the same time. Yoon-sik walked to his platform at the center of the chamber and pressed a button that made a loud bell sound. Slowly, all the alien representatives became quiet and turned to look at him. He could see fear in every type of eye, from the compound eyes of the insect-like Zephyrians to the glowing orbs of the energy beings from the void sector. "Fellow members of the Council," Yoon-sik began in a serious voice, "we are here today because of reports about the human species that have reached us from our intelligence services. What we have learned is both incredible and terrifying." General Kethvar of the Krex Empire stood up from his seat. He was a large creature that looked like a combination of a crab and a warrior, with thick armor covering his body and sharp claws for hands. When he spoke, his mouth parts clicked together rapidly, which meant he was very nervous. "Chancellor, the humans have done something that our best engineers said was impossible," Kethvar announced to the chamber. "In less than 1 Earth year, they have completely unified their entire species. They have no more wars between their countries. They have no more arguments about resources or territory. Somehow they have made every human on their planet work together like parts of a single machine." The chamber filled with surprised sounds from many different species. The Trilaxian representative made a high whistling noise, while the rock-like beings from Granite Prime rumbled like small earthquakes. Kethvar continued speaking, his voice getting louder with each word. "But that is not the most frightening part. They have also turned their entire solar system into one giant factory. They are building structures in space that are larger than our biggest cities. They are processing asteroids faster than our mining fleets can process single rocks. They have created an industrial empire in the time it usually takes a species to plan a single construction project." Ambassador Hyejin from the Ethereal Communion slowly rose from her seat. She was a being made of pure light and energy, and, when she was worried, her glow became brighter and changed colors. Right now she was glowing with deep red and orange colors that meant great concern. "Council members," Hyejin said in a voice that sounded like music mixed with wind, "my people have studied human history very carefully since we first learned about them 30 years ago. What we have discovered is a pattern that appears throughout their entire existence on their planet." She waved one of her energy arms and a large display screen appeared in the air above the chamber. On the screen, images of human history began to show like a movie. "Watch how humans behave when they face great dangers," Hyejin continued. "For thousands of years they used simple tools made of stone and wood. Then they learned to make bronze and their civilization advanced slowly. But when they faced wars and threats from other humans, they quickly learned to make iron weapons, which were much stronger." The images on the screen changed to show humans riding horses and using simple carts. For many centuries, humans traveled the same way, using animals and walking. But when they needed to move faster and carry more things, they invented steam. Engines, then automobiles, then flying machines. Each time the change happened very quickly when they felt pressure to survive. More images appeared showing human rockets and space stations. The same pattern happened when they learned to split atoms and travel to space. When they felt threatened by other humans who had similar weapons, they advanced their technology faster than anyone thought possible. Yoon-sik felt his stomach become tight with worry as he understood what Hee-jin was explaining. He had studied many species during his long career, but he had never seen anything like what humans could do when they felt scared. The most important thing to understand, Hee-jin said as her glow became even brighter, is that humans have always done this when they competed with other humans. Now, for the first time in their history, they know that they are not alone in the universe. They know there are other species with better technology and more advanced weapons. This is the biggest threat they have ever faced. The chamber became completely silent. Every representative understood what this meant. Humans had always advanced quickly when they felt threatened by other humans. Now they felt threatened by the entire galaxy. Yoon-sik looked around at all the worried faces and energy forms in the chamber. The question we must answer today, he said quietly, is whether humans are building all of this technology to protect themselves from us, or whether they are building it to make sure that no one in the galaxy can ever threaten them again. Ambassador, Mi-young felt her heart beating fast as her small diplomatic ship slowly moved toward the huge space station that orbited Earth. She had been chosen for this mission because she was the best negotiator in the Galactic Council. Over her long career, she had made peace between species that had been fighting wars for hundreds of years. She had stopped the Void Hunters from destroying 3 different planets, and she had convinced the Crystal Collective to share their technology instead of keeping it secret. But as she looked out the window at the massive human construction, she knew this would be the most important meeting of her life. The space station was bigger than any structure she had ever seen. It was made of gleaming white metal and glass that reflected the light from Earth's sun like a giant mirror. Thousands of smaller ships moved around it like busy insects, all working together in perfect order. Mi-young could see that every part of the station had been designed with careful thought and amazing skill. Her shuttle docked at a platform that was so clean and perfect it looked like it had just been built that morning. As Mi-young stepped out of her ship, she noticed that her scaled feet made no sound on the floor. The material seemed to absorb noise and vibration in a way that made everything feel calm and peaceful. 2 human guards stood at attention near the docking area, but they were not like any soldiers Mi-young had seen before. They wore uniforms that seemed to be made of some kind of advanced fabric that changed color slightly as they moved. Their weapons were small and elegant, nothing like the big, clumsy guns that most species carried. These humans looked strong and alert, but also polite and welcoming. "Ambassador Mi-young," one of the guards said in perfect Altarian language. "Director So-young is waiting for you in Conference Room Alpha. Please follow us." As they walked through the corridors of the station, Mi-young tried to study everything around her. The walls were covered with screens that showed information in dozens of different alien languages. The air smelled fresh and clean, better than the air on most planets she had visited. The lighting was soft and comfortable, designed to make visitors from any species feel relaxed. But underneath all this comfort, Mi-young could sense something else. There was a feeling of great power being held back, like a giant animal that was being very careful not to step on smaller creatures. Every system on the station worked perfectly. Every person they passed moved with purpose and confidence, and every piece of technology looked far more advanced than anything the Council had ever built. The conference room was large and beautiful, with a round table in the center and chairs designed for many different types of alien bodies. Mi-young was surprised to see that her chair was perfectly sized for her reptilian form, with supports in exactly the right places for her tail and arms. Someone had studied her species very carefully before she arrived. Director So-young stood up as Mi-young entered the room. She was a human woman who looked to be about 50 Earth years old, with short gray hair and eyes that seemed both kind and extremely intelligent. When she smiled, Mi-young felt welcome, but she also felt like she was being studied by someone who could see right through her. "Ambassador Mi-young, welcome to New Geneva Station," So Young said as she gestured toward the special chair. I am Director So Young, and I coordinate something we call Project Unity. Thank you for coming such a long way to meet with us. Mi Young sat down in the chair and was amazed at how comfortable it was. Thank you for receiving me, Director. I must admit, your station is far more impressive than our intelligence report suggested it would be. May I ask what Project Unity involves? So Young sat down across from her and folded her hands on the table. Project Unity is our species' response to learning that we are not alone in the universe, she said in a calm, simple voice. When we realized that there were other intelligent species with advanced technology and powerful weapons, we understood that a divided humanity would be vulnerable to any spacefaring civilization that wanted to control or destroy us. So we decided to stop being divided. Over the next 2 hours, So Young explained things that made Mi Young's mind spin with amazement and fear. The humans had somehow convinced every country on their planet to work together for the first time in their history. They had combined all their resources, knowledge, and technology into one massive effort to advance their civilization as quickly as possible. We studied the probe that your people sent to observe us 5 years ago, So Young continued. We reverse-engineered its technology and improved upon it. We learned how to build better engines, stronger materials, and more efficient computers. But most importantly, we learned that we needed to be ready for anything. Mi Young felt cold fear creep up her spine. Ready for anything? What does that mean? So Young's smile became a little harder, like iron covered with silk. It means we have prepared for every possible scenario, Ambassador. We have prepared for the possibility that the galactic community would welcome us as friends. We have also prepared for the possibility that some species might prefer that we remain primitive and weak. We have even prepared for the possibility that someone might try to invade our planet or destroy our species. She leaned forward slightly, and her kind eyes became very serious. We want to join the galactic community as equals, not as subjects. We are ready to share our knowledge, trade with other species, and work together for peace. But we will never again be vulnerable to anyone who wishes us harm. Chancellor Yoon Sik stood at the large window in his office, watching something that would have seemed impossible just 1 year ago. Outside in the darkness of space, 47 enormous human ships were slowly moving away from the galactic capital. These ships were so big that they made the Council's best warships look like toys in comparison. Each one was a masterpiece of engineering that combined beauty with incredible power. The human fleet was not heading toward any planet in their home galaxy. Instead, they were preparing to travel to Andromeda, a completely different galaxy that was millions of light years away. No species in the Council had ever attempted such a journey before. The humans were about to become the first people to travel between galaxies, and they were doing it like it was just another ordinary day. Sir, said Veltara as she walked into the office carrying a stack of reports, I have the final documents from the negotiations with Director Seok Jin. Everything has been signed and approved by both sides. Yoon-sik turned away from the window to look at his assistant. Veltara had been working with him for over 20 years, and he had never seen her look so amazed and confused at the same time. What does your analysis tell us about the humans' true intentions? He asked. Veltara sat down in the chair across from his desk and opened the first report. That is what is so incredible, sir. After studying all their actions over the past year, our experts have reached a conclusion that surprises everyone. The humans were never preparing for war at all. She pointed to charts and graphs that showed human activities over the past 12 months. Look at what they actually built. Yes, they created powerful ships and advanced weapons, but they also built hospitals, schools, research centers, and factories that make food and medicine. For every warship they constructed, they built 10 ships designed to help and heal. Yoon-sik sat down at his desk and studied the reports more carefully. The numbers were amazing. Humans had not just built a military force. They had built a civilization that could survive and thrive anywhere in the universe. They had prepared for every possible future, both good and bad. Director Seok Jin was very clear during our final meeting. Veltara continued. Humanity will accept full membership in the Galactic Council, with all the rights and responsibilities that come with it. In return, they will share their new manufacturing technology with any species that wants it. They will also provide protection to any member of the council that asks for help. Through his window, Yoon-sik could see more human ships preparing to leave the capital. These were not the exploration vessels heading to Andromeda. These were terraforming ships that would travel to dead planets and turn them into beautiful worlds where life could flourish. The technology they carried could change a lifeless rock into a garden paradise in just a few decades. The most interesting part, Veltara said as she turned to another page, is what our cultural experts discovered about human psychology. They were not preparing to fight us. They were preparing to never need to fight anyone ever again. Yoon-sik thought about this as he watched a group of research stations slowly moving past his window. These stations were staffed by teams that included both humans and aliens working together. Scientists from dozens of different species were collaborating on projects that could unlock the deepest secrets of how the universe worked. The past year had been full of surprises and revelations about humanity. When the Council first learned about their rapid advancement, many species feared that humans would become conquerors who would try to dominate the galaxy. Some military leaders had even suggested attacking Earth before humans became too powerful to stop. But as the months passed, it became clear that humans had no interest in conquest. Instead, they seemed to be focused on growth, exploration, and cooperation. They shared their technology freely with anyone who asked. They offered to help solve problems that had troubled the galaxy for centuries. They even volunteered to mediate disputes between species that had been enemies for generations. "Look at this report from the Outer Rim territories," Veltara said, showing him another document. 3 human medical ships arrived there last month to help with the plague that has been killing the Zephyrian colonists. They not only cured the disease, but they also taught local doctors how to prevent it from happening again. They asked for nothing in return. As Yoon-sik continued reading the reports, he began to understand what humans had actually accomplished. They had not built an empire or an army. They had built something much more powerful and much more dangerous to their enemies. They had built hope. The last human exploration ship was now just a tiny dot of light in the distance. Soon, it would activate its incredible engines and disappear into hyperspace, beginning a journey that would take it beyond the edge of their galaxy. Other human ships were spreading out in all directions, carrying with them the tools and knowledge needed to bring life to dead worlds and peace to troubled regions. Yoon-sik finally understood the truth that had taken him a full year to see. The humans had not been preparing for Galactic War. They had been preparing to make Galactic War unnecessary. They had created a civilization so advanced, so generous, and so powerful that fighting would become pointless. Who would want to attack? People who could turn your dead planets into gardens and cure diseases that had plagued your species for generations. As the last human ship disappeared into the infinite darkness between stars, Yoon-sik smiled for the first time in months. The galaxy had not gained new conquerors. It had gained gardeners who carried with them the power to reshape worlds and the wisdom to know when such power should be used.